This game has been years in the making.
As Fox 46's Will Kunkel shows us, the game has some Carolina ties to it.
Shoeless Joe Jackson had a lifetime batting average of .356. That's third greatest of all time. And you know, with numbers like that, I had to go down to Greenville, South Carolina and see where this dude came from.
When you hear about who he is as a person, a lot of people assume that all the Black Sox participants and people who were banned from baseball were super bitter their whole lives and they died penniless and ashamed, but that's not what happened with Joe. You know, he was a proud member of the community and people knew him and loved him and respected him. We've got tons of photos in this museum that show exactly that. And that's, to me, that's been the interesting thing about, you know, learning about who he was as a human being, not just a baseball player.
What was Joe's role in 1919 with the Black Sox throwing it?
He had great statistics. He had 12 hits in that World Series, the all-time record for most hits in a single World Series that stood for almost 50 years before it was even tied. He had the only home run for either team in that World Series. He didn't commit any errors in the field, and he threw out 5 base runners. So if that's a guy who's trying to lose, imagine what he would have done trying to win. What got him in trouble was at some point during that series, either after Game 4 or at the end of the series, we're not exactly sure when, gamblers went to Lefty Williams, who was the starting pitcher on the White Sox, who was in on the fix. And gamblers gave him $10,000, said, you keep 5, you give 5 to Joe. So one night under Joe's pillow, since they were roommates on the road, Lefty put an envelope with $5,000. So that's how Joe got involved in this.
So what's the biggest thing that ticks you off about 8-man out, or just I guess the misnomers? What's the biggest one that really?
People think that Joe was stupid.
Yeah.
He was uneducated. He never went to school a day in his life, but he was not unintelligent. He was actually a really successful business owner. When he played in Chicago, they had a pool hall and a cigar store. When they got back to Greenville, they opened a barbecue restaurant for a couple years and then opened that liquor store. So they made money wherever they went, and just because he didn't know how to read and write, again, he was uneducated, but he was not unintelligent. Since Joe was illiterate, one of our goals is to create literacy programs here in the community and teach people that reading is okay to do. Not just kids, but adults too. The adult literacy rate here in Greenville and in South Carolina in general is not great. And we found that especially the men who don't know how to read kind of feel self-conscious about that a lot of times. So one of the ways to get them interested is to have books about subjects that they're into. No man wants to read a romance novel to learn how to read, but he will read a book about Ty Cobb. He will read a book about Mickey Mantle.
So I see the movies, Field of Dreams. We talked about 8-Man Out. Which one is your favorite one that features Joe Jackson?
Field of Dreams is a classic movie. I mean, it's the only movie that every man is allowed to cry.
And you're heading out to Iowa. I mean, what do you think about baseball doing this? How cool is this? And when you heard about it, what was your reaction?
I'm originally from Chicago, so I've been to the Field of Dreams many times. I've played on that field many times, and it's always a magical experience. Literally get goosebumps thinking about it. And when they announced that they were having the game last year, I was like, I need to go to this game. It's the first game that's ever been played, a Major League game in Iowa. The first time they've ever played a Major League game at the Field of Dreams. This is a special event. I can't miss it.
Tell you what, walking through that door and realizing you're in Joe Jackson's house was pretty special. I mean, he's one of the greatest hitters to ever walk planet Earth, Brian. Not something you or I could ever relate to. You were much better than I. You played in the minors, but to be Joe Jackson, that's a different world.
Well, it's certainly special. And, of course, this Field of Dreams game that we're going to have coming on Fox is going to be really great. And our news director, Casey Clark, was talking about something special, that this movie, Field of Dreams, is really about father-son relationships that I love so much about it. And I always cry whenever I watch it, so I'm going to probably cry when I watch the baseball game tonight.
All right, let's watch together. You and I watching baseball, crying, and holding each other.
We'll put that on Instagram for sure. All right, we'll see you in just a bit.